Oh, okay, so great. So seeing the quorum, the chair opens up the Wednesday, July 6th, 2022 meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board. We're meeting at Mashpee Town Hall in the Quiet Meeting Room, 16 Great Neck Road North, in Mashpee, Massachusetts. The time is 7 p.m. This meeting is being videographed and recorded. We're being live broadcast on Channel 18 and live streamed on Mashpee, Town of Mashpee website at https://www.mashpeema.gov/channel-18. I invite you all to stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is approval of minutes. We have minutes from June 1st, June 8th, and June 15th.
Madam Chair, I have, Christine, I think there's a correction on page 6.
What date?
Page 6. Oh, I'm sorry, for June 1. It's the second paragraph. I don't believe I said, while there is no doubt people value the smaller charm of Mashpee, Mashpee's lost its rural character and is more consistent with New England suburbia.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, that sounds like you. So would you either delete that or ascribe it to Mr. Lehrer? Let's see, however, yeah, I said, this is not suburbia, I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I did say Mashpee lies somewhere between rural and small town, and I do not recall, but I probably said, are we a suburb of Boston? So if you could just describe that to our town planner, that would be fine. Thank you.
And also on June 1st, and this is the same comment for page 4, 6, 12, and 13. Just before people spoke from the public, just enter in, the chair called for public comment and recognized so-and-so. And then note that the discussion went back to the planning board. That was all my comments for June 1st. I'll continue on June, I have no comments for June 8th. Anybody have a comment for June 8th?
No.
And then June 15th, the same comment for page 8, 9, 13, and 17. Just state that I called for public comment and who I recognized. And then the discussion returned to the board. So I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of June 1st as amended.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd accept a motion to accept the minutes of June 8th as presented.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd accept a motion for the approval of minutes of June 15th as amended.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Next item is new business, discussion regarding potential amendment to fee schedule for special permit regulations and subdivision rules and regs.
I asked the chair just to address this with you briefly. If you recall, about a year ago, maybe a little bit more now, when we hired Ed Pesci as our new consultant, we altered the fee schedule for both the special permit regulations and the subdivision rules and regulations to take in the peer review and inspection fee upon the application for a subdivision or a special permit, with the intent of putting the burden of paying for those inspections and peer review immediately upon the applicant, as opposed to taking in a check and it going to the general fund and then budgeting for that annually. And what we didn't clearly delineate, I think, in the regulations that I'd like to discuss and contemplate with you now is inserting the procedure for when funds get drawn down below a certain value, when that gets reseated, because we need to make sure that those funds stay full of the appropriate funding amount. So what I would suggest is that at a future meeting, I would prepare a simple amendment that would state something along the lines of when the value of any particular account becomes less than 50% of the account value, so less than $2,500, for example, the applicant would need to replenish the fund to 100%. And we would need a public hearing for the subdivision rules and regulations, but not the special permit regulations. But I wanted to just raise this as a concept. It is the expectation already, but I think it should be spelled out more clearly in our rules and regulations.
All right, we'll look forward to
Yeah,
you
sounds
writing it up for us.
And would you prefer to wait until I prepare a draft to set a public hearing date?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
good idea.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, moving on to old business, floodplain bylaw amendments.
Madam
Good,
Chair?
yes, go ahead.
I think we have to pass this, we have to agree on this because of the deadline and the ramifications if we did not. But one thing I would like to think about, and, you know, if we revise it or amend it later on, if we could have, in the flood law, as written now, prohibits using fill to elevate structures in the velocity zone. Why couldn't we do that for all zones? Because I think they were suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, doing a concrete foundation with perhaps weep holes to get the water out so we don't have fill and a wall around and create flooding. In other words, if this does not create flooding, why not do this for all properties?
I think we probably could do that. It's a question I would want to pose to the building commissioner and the floodplain coordinator. But I don't see any issue with going above and beyond the minimum requirements of the FEMA regulations, as long as it doesn't conflict with the building code.
Do you know if by building a concrete as opposed to a fill foundation and the weep holes or whatever they call them, does that prevent flooding?
So what is generally, to my knowledge from my conversations with the county's floodplain specialist, is that solid wall foundations with flood vents is always
Flood vents.
the best way to prevent loss of property and potential impacts to property value and life safety situations. And certainly doesn't require the manipulation of average natural grades or the natural grades of a property to be flood safe. So I could certainly coordinate a potential edit to this document with maybe alongside the floodplain specialist, who would be back from vacation at that point, and we could invite to a meeting. I just would want to clarify what the appropriate language would be to insert into this bylaw. And we do need to submit a warrant article for next Monday.
Yes.
So we can certainly consider that, and it's probably a reasonable compromise.
Now, they're putting them on columns,
Yes.
like go down Mashpee Neck where the boat landing is.
Yeah.
There's a house being built there, and it looks funny because you see big columns and the house is on top of that, and it's like 14 feet high, you know, but then your house is on top of that.
Oh, boy, that's tough.
You know, so, but that's the way a lot of them do, instead of putting the foundation there too.
The flood,
Even with those weep holes, you know, we have a big flood, that wall's gonna be like the water's gonna come and knock the house right off. So that's why they recommend putting them on columns and stuff.
and the columns do contribute to just the overall building height as well. So that's why often the solid wall foundation with flood vents is advantageous for property owners, because it doesn't necessarily have a detrimental impact on the potential gross floor area their home could have. Whereas the pilings, the piers, contribute to the overall building height of a structure.
You know, okay. I know one thing, if I lived behind that house, I would be kind of angry. You just look out to the water, now
Yeah.
that house is
Yeah.
that high,
Of course.
and if they're looking at the, you know, the kitchen,
Yep.
but that's what the state recommends.
And, you know, I just wanted to be clear, the potential for that building height doesn't change regardless of the foundation type. They just
Oh.
actually lose a floor essentially.
Okay.
With the piers. So they're raised up with no bottom floor, but they can't exceed 35 feet still.
35, it's no space,
Oh,
35
okay.
feet.
So I spoke to the town manager. He's okay with us submitting something as a placeholder. So, do you want to continue to work on this extra paragraph?
Sure.
Yeah. He's,
And then next meeting, we can submit it.
well, I didn't know what was going to happen tonight, right? If we were going to be comfortable, all of us going forward, but.
I am.
Yeah, I am too, but I want to try to get this one last paragraph in there.
So what I would suggest, if the board is okay with it, is that I submit as drafted in your packet tonight, which includes the
Yeah.
glossing of zone language. And then we would come back together, convene to discuss a potential amendment, and submit that as modified to the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you could put that in your cover letter.
Certainly.
When you submit the materials on Monday, that we're requesting a placeholder for an additional paragraph.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good,
That
thank
works
you.
for me. Happy to do it.
Great. And so Karen, I hope you take the lead on that because it's very technical and,
Well, it's
I
sort
appreciate-
of one of my issues.
right, and I appreciate you spending so much time on the research of it because I found it a little confusing.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. Okay. So should we make a motion to that effect? That we're going to submit what we have in the packet as presented with a cover memo saying that we're going to the Board of Selectmen, asking them to put it on the warrant for October, and ask for a placeholder for an additional paragraph.
Yeah. that'd be good.
Second.
So Dennis, you,
So big.
and for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any discussion?
Rob, no.
Rob, do you have, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. All right. Next item is local comprehensive plan updates with Weston and Sampson. So Ashley, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Hi. All right, so we're gonna start with transportation. And I did, so it should be one for you, one for
Rob.
Rob.
I did include your comments in the packet there.
Oh, okay, so they're in the packet. My comments are in the packet. So I don't know if anybody wants to start with their comments on the chapter, the existing condition part of the transportation and circulation chapter.
let me see if I can cover this here. On figure one, it's on the second page, workplace location of Mashpee residents. And I don't know if you want comments on this, but they're saying only 125 work in Boston. Now, this survey was done in 2011 to 2015, so it's kind of old. So I'm going to speculate that 125 who worked in, either maybe they work in Boston or their company is located in Boston, but here they're working, in many cases, virtual. So I don't know if that militates against Boston being, the city and Mashpee being a suburban location. I don't think it is. I think that kind of says it. And then the other one on figure 2, here you have residence location of Mashpee workers. Okay, nobody lives in Boston. Well, that doesn't help. That doesn't help me. Figure 6.
No, but I think what you're trying to say is, for every location, there's almost an equal number of people that are coming into Mashpee as leaving Mashpee.
That's true. That's true.
And,
The other one is figure.
oh, can you use the mic a little bit more?
I'm sorry. Figure 6, travel time to work, it shows that 40% of Mashpee residents spend 15 to 29 minutes traveling, and 28%, or rather 28% less than 15 minutes. So that combines of 40 and 28, 68% only travel a short distance. Only 9% commute to Boston, which would fit in that category of 60 or more minutes. To me, that again says we're not a suburb of Boston, so just want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll go next. So, Ashley, you probably got this from Evan, but in section 9.2, the last sentence, it talks about the impact of transportation systems on town resources, community character, quality of life. I wanted to enter in there environmental quality. Because we know that road runoff is a nutrient load on our waters. Section 9.3, I think that we should add a list and a description of the importance of our ancient ways. There are people who still hunt and gather in Mashpee, and ancient ways are part of that, and they're actually transportation systems. You know the dirt road on I live on a Shumet Road, right? It's a dead end, but there's a big dirt road. I think it's a Shumet Road. I think it's still a Shumet Road. I don't know. That big road, does
The one that connects kind of to like Lovell's Lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does our transportation chapter cover those dirt roads too?
I don't know.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so we should add those dirt roads as well. I mean, a lot of them are gated, and a lot of people don't want them gated because they actually use them to get from one place to another in town.
What happens without the gates, though, a lot of dumping goes on.
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, it did stop the dumping in my neighborhood. They're pretty big dirt roads, and they put the gate up on my street, but before that, I mean, people used to come
Yeah.
from that part of town. Also, I'd like to add crosswalks, just because a good crosswalk in town is rare. So I think it's important that we note them. I think there should be a little bit more data on the Cape Regional Transit Authority ridership from Mashpee residents. The next piece is the American Community Survey data on the volume of commuter traffic leaving and entering Mashpee, but we already have that. Karen pointed that
Yes.
out. The other thing is, I'm wondering, does the Mashpee Senior Center have a van service?
Yes.
They do.
Okay, so we need to add that. Also, Medicaid is starting to offer wraparound services. So that's the healthcare system for very low people in this country. And one of the things they offer is medical transportation to medical appointments. And then I was hoping, Ashley, you guys could find some data on Uber and Lyft. It's a new way of getting around. I have heard some parents say it's cheaper for me to have a set account with Uber and Lyft than to buy my kid a car. So it's interesting. And we've had people here that, younger people that work during our meetings, whether they're reporters or Mashpee TV, and I've seen them take Uber and Lyft home. So, I also would like some information about the Cape Cod Commission tip process. I hope I'm using the right words. That was the program through which we did the Mashpee Rotary study.
Yeah.
And remember, there was a Route 28 study. It wasn't exactly was it in Mashpee? Was it on it was right at the
It was-
border of Mashpee and Barnstable?
Yeah, east of the Mashpee Rotary, right around Orchard Road.
But it was like, a lot of people took interest, so it'd be nice to get a summary from the Cape Cod Commission about what studies they're doing and what that tip process is.
What does that stand for?
Transportation Improvement Program.
Thank you.
And that's, some of our roads are on the tip list, and they'll eventually bubble up to get that state funding. I think we have to do a 25% match for those improvements, but that's how you dip into the state and I think the federal money, the road improvement money. Yeah, so as you probably recall, the Mashpee Rotary study ended up with the recommendation to retrofit the Rotary.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to know kind of what's going on with that. Also, there's been a proposed rotary at this intersection right here, Great Neck Road North and Route 130. And the Cape Cod Commission has been working on that with the Board of Selectmen.
With a rotary there.
A little rotary there.
Yeah, roundabout.
Yeah. So that'd be good to have in there. All right. So then section 933, it references census maps. We could have a map of the census tracts in there. 935, you have the major arterial roads bulleted. I think we should bullet the minor arterial roads as well. Under pedestrian and bicycle accommodations in the first, I think it's first and second paragraph, we should strike center of town. Because I think what you're talking about is the Rotary, but we affirmed in our 2022 town meeting that our center of town is here at Town Hall, this area. Under the section of parking, the state also I believe, the state owns, that parking lot at South Cape Beach, but also they own the Mashpee Wakeby Pond boat ramp parking lot,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And then under parking, it talks about parking around the Rotary, and it talks about Mashpee Commons, Mashpee's commercial hub. If we could strike Mashpee's commercial hub, just because there's other commercial areas in that area, I'm gonna have a level playing field. And under issues, this chapter went on beyond the existing conditions, which is fine. But under issues to be dealt with, we have a transportation network gap at the Mashpee Rotary, as everybody knows. We have lots of open space north of the Rotary, south of the Rotary. We have bike paths, walkways, and then when you get to the Rotary, it's like no man's land. So it can be pretty dangerous trying to cross that or get through that in a bicycle. So there's network gaps at the Mashpee Rotary. Other issues is transportation systems impact on our water quality and air quality, right? Because if I'm right, Evan, when you have gridlock, that adds to air pollution, right?
It does, yeah.
Runoff impacts on water quality, and there's an emerging traffic congestion issue here at Route 130 and Great Neck Road North. I don't know if you guys, you might see it
Every
because,
day leaving Town
yeah.
Hall.
right?
I go down South Sandwich Road, and it's quite backed up down South
Oh,
Sandwich
yeah.
Road.
Yeah,
So that's the intersection I go through every morning to get to work, and I know it's July, but the traffic's been backed up all the way onto South Sandwich Road.
It's always been bad the past few summers. This particular summer, though, has been notably substantial.
And if they're like painting, parking lot lines somewhere, and they have to have equipment in the road, forget it, the whole thing is jammed up. It's so
Oh, yeah.
sensitive, one little thing. If there's a car that's pulled over, forget it, you have a traffic jam within 5 minutes.
And that Dunkin' Donuts don't help.
No, and the other thing is, people come down Route 130 into that intersection pretty fast. We might want to think about some traffic calming mechanism there. It's just 130. You start to pick up speed, and then all of a sudden there's dunks and the traffic lights. And under opportunities, I'd like to develop a greenway connection for all green and open space from North Mashpee to South Mashpee. I don't know, Ashley, if we gave you the greenway stuff. So supposedly, and I'm looking at the guy that probably built most of the trails in town.
Yeah, me.
Supposedly, if you can get across from the north part of town across the rotary, you can walk all the way down to South Cape and trails. There's a whole trail system.
It's a trail system. I put
yeah.
up a lot of the little signs, they're probably still on trees.
So it'd be nice to, so I think the Cape Cod Commission has the trails.
Yep.
All, I think they had AmeriCorps people walk through the woods with GPS stuff, so they have them all on maps that we can use in our document. And that's all my comments.
I just have a comment. I'd like to see like maybe a bus terminal that take the people, if we have the parking, to work to Boston, so they don't have to drive their car. You know, we don't have no, it's in Hyannis, they have one, but, I mean, we got the base, we could put a bus terminal that can handle Sandwich, Falmouth, Mashpee, and Bourne.
Oh, use your mic,
Oh,
use your mic.
Sandwich, Falmouth, Mashpee, and Bourne. You know, I don't know why we never look into something like that.
So there's one at the exit 6 off of Route 6, so you're saying that this area needs one too?
Yeah,
Sagamore, talking about Sagamore?
Well, there's Sagamore, and then there's exit 6.
but I'm
in
trying to keep the
Barnstable.
traffic away from the bridges and stuff. You
Yeah.
know, so if they had a spot here in the morning, that saves all the traffic, you know, going to the bridge and going over the bridge.
Yep,
I
okay.
mean, it's something to look into. That's all I have to comment when I was reading this, so I didn't see that, something like that.
And you know, there's some parked already, there's already parking that's not used a lot,
Yeah.
you know?
We could use
I mean,
that.
Roach Brothers has all that parking. I think that back half of that parking lot has never been filled once.
No,
So it's something to think about.
yeah, I mean, they could have a schedule like the bus run, 3 schedules in the morning, like 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And then back home, like 3:30, 4, 5 or something.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have to say. Rob?
I don't have it.
All right. All right, next chapter is municipal buildings, facility, and services. And in your packet is the Human Services 2012 updated plan, which I found very interesting, so. So Ashley, did you get a copy of that?
I did provide that.
Oh, you did, okay, good. All right, so that was transportation. All right, so there were, you know, Evan, I gave you 2 comment sheets. And I had a third.
Do you need something?
I'm trying to figure out what comment sheets I have in the,
You mean
Comments
the-
are-
The comments?
yeah, what ones do you have?
I've got the one, the transportation, and I have municipal buildings,
Okay, so you guys have that one, all right.
yeah,
All right,
and sustainability.
so I'll go first. On 8.2, introduction, the first paragraph, modify first sentence, strike planning for and replace with the quality of.
What? Excuse me?
So it would say, your introductory sentence would say, the quality of municipal services and facilities directly impacts the ability of residents to live in a safe and healthy environment. Because we already have a lot. So I was thinking, just start with the quality of. And the second sentence, add human service in the list of services. So it would say sanitation, public services, sanitation, public safety, and human services. Then the third sentence starts with development, but I think we should put planning there. So it would say, planning must be linked and complementary with established levels of quality service. When it's not, growth can be disruptive and stress the community's ability to serve new residents or businesses. And so when it says new businesses, new residents and businesses, I think we should say new and existing residents and businesses.
Yeah, because it's gonna affect them, you know. existing.
Right, yeah, because some communities that outgrow themselves too quickly, the existing residents and businesses can have an issue.
Mary,
Yep.
the word development, I like what you said, the plan.
Planning.
Development means you're already.
Right.
To put the building together.
Yeah.
And we should plan it before, you know.
Right, I think words like development should be in our action items,
Yeah.
not in our introduction.
Good. All right.
And Ashley, did you have map SF1 done yet, or is that just a note?
I believe the map is done. I'll check on that and make sure that you get copies of those.
Great. Let's see, so on the second paragraph, modify the first sentence, add water district building and school buildings. For communities of our size here on the Cape, our school buildings are big buildings to us, right? And there are, I think they should be noted, they're beautiful, they should be noted. And several other smaller public buildings and areas, because we have some shellfish stuff that goes on that are municipal facilities, and they don't have buildings on them, they're areas. I think also we should add, after the brief description of Public Works Department, Police, Fire, Emergency Management, add a brief description of Human Service Department, Library, and Senior Center. Also, in the brief description of schools, after, quote, providing a high level of educational services, add and human services. Because the schools, they have a school nurse. They offer a lot more. Some schools offer food pantries. Yeah. And I don't know if we've had our focus group with the school committee yet.
No.
No, okay. Then under section 8.3, under town hall, add a section for the human service department, just because they do so much, so I hear. My friend Lynn Barbie, who's on the human service committee. I think we should add a section on the harbor master and the shellfish warden.
Yeah.
And then I think that the rest of the plan should be sent around again to all these different departments for updates.
Right.
I thought it was, I thought it was super interesting how many staff people work in some of these departments. And then in some departments, you have like statistics about how many people they serve. And it'd be nice to see that for every department. How are they staffed? And, I think it's I know it's geeky, but I think it's interesting to know how many calls the police and fire respond to. How many kids are graduating from our high school, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? All right. And the last one we're doing tonight is sustainability. So I think this is the one I just emailed you, Evan, even though I had it done, I just emailed you half an hour ago, so.
I got it. They have it as well.
What's this, existing conditions?
So sustainability is kind of like the planner's turn for how to deal with climate change. In the first paragraph, I wanted to modify the first sentence, strike development patterns and replace with land use patterns. because some of the things that we do in town for sustainability is actually to buy open space. If there's a different kind of word that can fit in there, I didn't know. I just didn't want it to be development patterns. Add as a third sentence, in 2020, town meeting declared a climate emergency, directing the town to consider changes to the climate in all decisions. So that was a town meeting vote, so we should put that in our sustainability chapter. Then there's a sentence that says, Town of Mashpee has initiated planning efforts, and I wanted to insert, to reduce climate change, and that will improve its resiliency to these impacts. So it's not just adding resiliency, it's also trying to prevent climate change. For example, we've noted that the state wants us to reduce, the Commonwealth has a goal for 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So I want to note that.
You really say reduce climate change?
I was-
Is that,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem right.
Well, you want to, it's not just mitigate and prepare for it, but it's also try to prevent it. And that's the reduction in greenhouse gases.
I see your point. I think there's a way we can wordsmith
Yeah,
this
okay, good.
to get at.
It's,
This is kind of confusing to me.
We're not God, we can't reduce climate change.
I have the same note.
I mean, we can,
You
maybe,
can reduce the effects.
We,
We can.
Reduce.
We can reduce our contribution to it,
yeah.
right, with the reduction of the greenhouse
That's
gas.
the word you're looking for, contribution.
Okay,
wait, I didn't hear that word.
reduce our contribution to it.
Okay,
That's all that energy efficiency stuff.
Yeah, okay.
We'll work on it.
I love
Something like
hearing
that.
Ashley's typing away. I just love it. All right. And then your first bullet point, you have I think it's GHG. I think that stands for greenhouse gases.
Yes.
Okay, so spell that out. Section, it must be 331, not 321, sustainable land use patterns. Because again, I want to start introducing the open space. And add to the end of the first sentence, and conservation efforts. Let's see. So, sorry. So the second sentence of paragraph 331 says, Table 3.1 identifies existing regulations that are in place to protect the natural environment and to reduce waste in Mashpee. So I think we should add to that table, identifies existing regulations and conservation efforts that are in place to protect natural environment and reduce waste in Mashpee. So I think to Table 3.1, we should add our open space purchase initiatives in there as well. Because that's a lot of money that we spend on protecting open space.
Yeah.
So, so this big chart, I know you wanted it to be regulations, but I think we should add somewhere
Open
our
space.
efforts to buy open space. And then to that table 3.1, I think we should add some other acts. The Coastal Zone Management Act, the Rivers Protection Act, the Wetland Protection Act. And there must be something, I don't know what the title is, for stormwater management.
I only know what the permit's called. I don't know.
Yeah.
what
So it could be a general thing, stormwater management statute and regulations. Because
I think
isn't.
the stormwater management requirements are vested in the Clean Water Act.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
All right, so it would be the Clean Water Act, and then in the description, we would talk about stormwater management. Because I think stormwater management is in our MVP plan,
It's noted as a priority goal, action item.
and that's to so when you manage the stormwater, you're managing the nutrient load,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And that helps our ponds stay clean as we get hotter? Is that the connection?
You know, for the Santuit Pond, for the Santuit Pond project in particular.
Okay,
But if we're talking like larger scale, it's also for the events of flooding, you want your stormwater infrastructure to
Are you
remove water
saying
from roads.
Santuit Pond because it's a shallow pond?
No, I'm just noting that Santuit Pond is subject of one of our MVP action grants right now, whereas we're trying to manage the external nutrient loads to the pond, and those external nutrient loads tend to be, can be mitigated by way of improving our stormwater infrastructure to better treat for nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus at the source.
and then in this existing condition piece, we have big sections on nature-based improvements, energy use reduction, renewable energy sources. So I didn't know if we should, under nature-based improvements, put our conservation efforts or make a whole new section?
The only thing I want to note is that, we want to be careful of redundancies in our existing conditions because we're going to have a chapter on open space. So there's going to be areas where there are logical crossovers, but I think we want to be careful of not repeating ourselves twice within our existing chapters, as well as our action plans in the remaining chapters. So
Right.
be cognizant of these things.
So I think, right, so a really brief paragraph in this section, how many acres we've preserved to date, a map of the lands, and then maybe a referral to our open space plan. You want to do that?
We can work on that.
And that's all my comments on sustainability.
How come we don't have anything for Title V in this? I mean, because they're gonna be updating it.
Where would that fit
Our
in?
coastal resources chapter contemplates a lot of Title V related issues
All right.
as it pertains to nutrient removal, or at least its impact, not removal, but its impact on waterways, estuaries.
Do we have a chapter on water?
Remember we contemplated this, we asked you the question, do you want a completely separate chapter on water quality? And you said you did.
All right, so that can definitely fit in there, too.
Okay, yeah. Because
Right?
there's a lot of changes coming out of the state and everything
Yeah,
that you have to update the Title V system.
so we'll want to pull that out and deal with it as a separate chapter. I think the community will want to see that as well.
I would like to, I've been driving around town a little bit, and I've seen a few places where single homes, single residences have been built, and I see big banks of sod and soil, and it looks like it's gonna run right into the street. I know the erosion and sedimentation control plan exempts single-family houses. And I think single-family houses should be part of that plan. There's one particular place, and I don't want to cite where it is exactly, but it's in
Go
Pompanesett.
right by it today.
Pardon me, I don't know, I can't tell you this, it's the main drag, and it's so extreme, the slope. I mean, one good rainstorm, and that's all going into the road.
Yeah.
Well, we contemplated, some type of tree bylaw.
Well, we've
Yeah.
talked about that, but I don't know if that's going to be connected with this. I mean,
I think a tree bylaw and requiring a sedimentation and erosion control plan for the construction of a single-family dwelling.
could go together.
Well, I think they're separate regulations.
But right together, paragraph 1, paragraph 2.
Indeed, I think, I think we would have a minimum standard for if you're going to be building a single-family house. These are the erosion and sedimentation controls you're going to need to have on site. Whether it be, I don't know, hay bales around the property line, whatever. We would want to discuss what that may be, but a tree bylaw would probably be something that's vested either in our general bylaws, but probably the zoning bylaw, and would be a separate regulation.
Separate, yes.
Now, does our bylaw have something about keeping topsoil in place? Is there something, I think there's something in our bylaw that it prevents you from stripping the topsoil. off of
You're
your
not supposed to
lot.
manipulate the grades prior to permitting, but I don't know if it's explicitly spelled out in the zoning bylaw. One thing where appeals have held up in events where property owners, particularly commercial property owners, have gone in and cleared the site and manipulated the grades, is that it removes the ability for a special permit granting authority to set appropriate conditions in consideration of the natural condition of the site. So in a way, you know, you're not supposed to do that because either the Board of Appeals or the Planning Board should have the opportunity to, in consideration of the natural topography of the site or the existing vegetation, be able to set adequate conditions in consideration of the zoning. And when you remove all of the vegetation and manipulate the topography prior to, you don't get the opportunity to set those conditions. So it could be, I think, spelled out more clearly in the zoning, but that is a situation that has occurred before and hasn't been appealed as a result.
The planning board don't look at single-family homes, though, right?
No.
So,
No.
I think that'd be the ZBA, Bylaw.
And only in the event of a raise and replace. But we get these calls all the time from commercial property owners
Yeah.
say, you know, can I clear the lot? And generally say, no, we don't recommend you do that because there are zoning considerations like natural buffers and things like that, where the board may want to impose a condition in consideration of those requirements, and stripping the land of those natural features removes your ability to do just that. So you can revegetate those things, but it's not the same.
So Ashley, do you want to add anything to the conversation?
Sorry, takes me a minute to unmute. No, I mean, I'm here to listen to your comments and make sure I can capture everything so that we can update the chapters.
Okay.
Great. Evan, anything from you?
No, I said my piece about just be cognizant of potential redundancies. Let's avoid that where practicable.
Yeah, I guess we could just, okay, yeah, we can just reference other things, all right. So, update on chapter assessments.
Likely at our next meeting, which I guess is July 20th. Is that right?
Yeah.
We'll have an assessment of the energy chapter, the 98 energy chapter, municipal buildings, facilities and services, and solid and hazardous waste management. With the potential for public safety as well, the fire chief and police chief have pretty much been taking that under their wing completely to provide an update for me. So it'll be 4 of the smaller chapters. We don't have them today. Alex has helped me prepare questionnaires, and we're having interviews with department heads. And we're about done collecting the data, so I'll prepare memos like I have in your previous chapters for a report to you at our next meeting.
That's great. In the packet, there's like a draft survey. It's kind of in between an outline and a draft survey.
Yeah, it's like in matrix format.
So I've looked at it a little bit. I was hoping to spend more time on it at our next meeting. But I didn't, if people spent some time looking at it, if they have some comments they want to make now, please feel free to do so.
I looked at it, and I've always been partial to the old survey. I took it back in 2020 when I was running for planning board, and I thought it was nice. It was easy, it flowed. I'm not liking this one too much. I got a feeling that there are a lot of people who are not going to take this survey. It's going to be too onerous.
You think it's too long? Or,
Well, here, wait, let's see. When you get these long things, let me see a good one here. I mean, what natural resources are most important to you? Vernal pools, salt marshes, coastal bays? A lot of people don't even know what these words mean.
I see, like vernal pool could be merged in with something else.
Yeah, I mean,
They're special vernal pools.
what's that?
Yes,
Very special, you know, I mean,
they are, they are.
Yeah, I know what they are. I had to look it up at one time,
yeah,
too.
but they have, that's what the lizards and.
I don't know, it just doesn't feel, I mean, I feel.
We combine it and still
just-
use
I
that
showed
word?
this to a few people, not people who are really knowledgeable about these subjects, and they said, oh, that's heavy duty.
I just want to, if I may, I want to be very clear that actually came to Mashpee and we worked on this matrix together, because again, this isn't laid out as
Yeah.
if someone would take it. It's to
Okay.
give you an understanding of the questions, to gauge a level of support for the question, and a rationale for why the question is important to ask. But also, at your direction, we utilized the 2011 survey as the skeleton for this, and simplified and made it much more user-friendly in consideration of survey best practices. So we felt that this presentation was consistent with what the board had asked us for, and we removed a number of questions that we felt were either no longer relevant because the action had already occurred, or were biased in some way. But if it was still relevant, we tried to restructure the question so that the bias was mitigated and or removed completely. So I think we generally agree that there was the 2011 survey was relatively robust and lengthy, and we did our best to take that as a general framework and structure and modify it to be more consistent with present day, but also survey best practices. So this is what we've presented thus far.
So the questions, when it's ultimately done, will be more in line with the 2011 survey?
These questions, as we've presented them, are from that, just modified questions.
So Ashley, so you gave us the summary of everything from our April workshop. Did you guys talk about the possibility of doing the same for the workshop in May and the workshop in June?
You're talking about you had asked for the Excel spreadsheet, that summary?
Right, so in April, you did this unbelievable job of taking all our comments from that half a day long workshop in April to kick off all this, our SWOT analysis, right? Our strengths and
Yep.
weaknesses, opportunities, challenges, and it was like this, you ended up with this amazing spreadsheet with, counts of how many people said this and how many people said that, and you just like grouped them all together. So I was wondering if that was going to happen for the workshop on natural systems and community systems, those two workshops.
Yeah, certainly we can look at consolidating that information into a spreadsheet for you.
Because that's, I think that we should look at the input from those two. We have the April workshop. We need the info from the May and June workshop, this one in July. I think before we make our final selection on all these questions, that we make sure that we capture everything or somehow tag everything that people brought up. I just don't want to miss something that somebody brought up as super important and not include it in the survey.
If I could just note for the board as well, in the matrix itself, you'll see a parentheses with a 98 or a 1998.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
And it references every question that is a modified,
Yes.
or often
RK.
completely regurgitated with some maybe minor modifications from the 1998 survey. Others from the 2011 survey, it's referenced as 98, but it's actually 2011. There are deletions from the 1998 survey, 2011 survey, and then there are additions and considerations of the things that we know are emerging issues.
I think along emerging issues, we ought to somehow include the Cape Cod new homeowners survey. You know what I'm talking about?
The commission's new homeowner survey?
Yeah.
You want to re-ask questions from that survey?
Well, I mean, I think this may be the future here. These are people who are coming here. You know, the demographics are, pretty clear. Older people, we've lost our school population.
Right. But if that data is already available, I don't understand the benefit of asking it again in our
There was
global survey.
a question in there that everybody turned to. They said, why did you come here, right? And we had something like that in the previous survey.
Yeah.
And I haven't, forgive me, Ashley, forgive
Yeah.
me, Evan. I haven't read this, but, we do want to ask, what drew you to Mashpee? What keeps you in Mashpee?
Yeah.
Is it your connection with your ancestral homeland, your homeland? Or did you move down here because of family? Did you move here because of the schools, the nature? Oh, yeah. And we would modify that a little bit because we want to acknowledge that some people, their family have been here for thousands of years, right?
That survey says that many people have owned land, or it's been, they're legacy people, 25 years or more here. A large number.
Yeah, so that's, question 39 is a famous question from the survey. So we might want to work that into a Mashpee version.
What is question 39?
That's the one you're looking at.
Oh, question 39, this whole thing. Factors in deciding to purchase.
But it would be factors of living here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
This is, again, the board survey. I just want to, again, this is
Yeah.
a caution. I would caution you against taking valuable survey real estate for questions that get at data that's already available to us.
Well, but this is about people
things that
who've
are-
just come here this survey is new homeowners.
There
but we're
was a
talking-
question, in the old survey that asked that.
And I think when we were going through the survey, we ask ourselves, is this question asking for an answer where the data exists elsewhere? And if the answer to that question is yes, then we would remove it from this survey.
Yeah, well, that question's definitely going to be in there. Yeah, that's my favorite question. Why are you here?
My personal opinion, I think it's kind of long. I wish we could break it down like 15 questions that would take each subject and combine, like, do you want to see more building or less building? That's my question. I mean, this survey, people are going to look at it and go, and put it aside. If you ask me, I wish we could combine them all. They're important questions, but like one answer. for
Yeah,
like
I
six
do
of them.
not disagree with you, Dennis. I just provided this because this
Oh,
was
yeah.
the direction the board had given.
All
This
right.
is
Well,
the first round.
Yeah,
This looks like this has almost every single thing we talked about.
yep. But some of them could be like a general question that answers like one chapter, like, you know what I mean?
We feel that every question posed there adds substantive value to and would provide good data, but I don't think there's any issue with trying to reduce or consolidate questions.
I just want the people to fill this out.
It's-
But as someone recently said, in the former survey, 665-ish people had responded, they felt that was good. I do think there's a benefit to reducing the amount of time it will take someone to take the survey. But again, we're just trying to respond as clearly as possible to the direction the board had given us.
Hey, Ashley, how many emails do you guys have thus far on our contact list? Do you think we have 300?
I'm going to have to check. I haven't looked at that in a while, but I can check that and let you know.
And the new round of emails you got at the June workshop,
Yep.
have they been added to our list?
If they I will check on that
Okay.
also, and if they have not, we will make sure that they do get added.
Right.
Because I think we're starting to get like a big contact list. And plus, the town has the news, don't they have a news email list? I think the town clerk can put you on a contact list. Like sometimes I get, oh, you know who has an email list is the rec. The rec department has an email list. So there's all these different emails lists, like when this is ready to go, and we have this wonderful link to a wonderful survey that you can take online.
I noticed, on all these things, there's like 4 things that everybody asks, like open space,
Yeah,
housing, traffic. There's
Yeah,
only like a
there are
couple
clearly
things that
priorities.
Everybody, then they break off and they ask other questions.
okay.
But there's probably 4 or 5 major things that everybody agrees with. And maybe we
So
can,
you said housing, traffic, open space,
employment too, jobs,
the jobs.
that's gonna be hard.
So you feel those are our 4 priority topics?
There may be a couple more.
Employment is limited really, from everything I've read, to workforce housing. That's what we need to take care of here, because here, in this survey of new people coming, when they answered what's extremely important, very important, moderately important, and going down, affordable housing options was only 6%.
6%.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
they had the money to come
They
and
had
buy
money to come.
something, you know?
And the
They haven't
average
lived
person
here. Yeah.
I'm
not the
thinking of
average,
my
but
son and Evan. you
Yeah.
know,
And they haven't lived here and gone to the supermarket and been like, oh, there's only one cashier.
And about
Because there's
economic
nobody able
opportunities,
to
Dennis,
live down here. Yeah.
job or economic opportunities, only 9% said it was extremely important.
Yeah.
So
That's
these
right.
are the people with the money who come
that
here,
retired.
who are retired or working at home
Remotely.
from a company
Yeah.
in a city.
It might, okay.
Uh,
So where would the data results from that survey live in our updated LCP?
Probably across chapters, like economic development, like housing, like,
Okay,
Yeah,
I'd have to think, probably those 2 primary chapters.
all right.
Wouldn't we keep the survey all together with the responses?
I think Mary was just asking that where would the results of that second homeowner survey where would the
Second home.
data find its way in
Oh, okay.
our LCP chapters, the existing conditions? I think it would be economic development, certainly, and housing.
Housing. Okay. All right, so will everybody study the survey?
yeah,
Study other surveys? Pick your favorite questions, your favorite areas?
no, I'm gonna do that.
I remember I've seen the old survey. I think I only have the results. But it was fit on one page, double-sided. Did you see that? I forget where I saw it, but you guys fit it on one page,
Yeah.
double-sided, and it was like this little,
Yeah, we have copies in our office. and
do
there's-
you?
Of not of the 98, it's a recent iteration, and it's multiple 8.5 by 11 sheets.
right, and that's the one we almost launched. And then I think
So
COVID happened.
That was what we utilized as reference material for
Oh,
this.
good,
this
because
one.
we did update some of those questions. Remember, we almost launched it, and we just, COVID happened. All right. We good to move on?
Yep,
All right, build systems workshop draft materials. I looked at them, I think they look good.
Didn't reinvent the wheel here. Did not reinvent the wheel here.
that was not good.
Yep, oh, the only comment was, you have a systems workshop, second of 3, you want 3 of 3, right?
Yes.
You want to just cross out natural systems, because that's done.
What was that name?
So, yeah, this one's done, June 11th is done, so they'll just cross that out. You know, these maps, Are they in, is there any way we could put them like those, like that orientation?
Yeah.
Yeah, just, nobody does maps of Mashpee that way. I get,
Okay, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got vertical orientation.
See, that's the map of Mashpee. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
It's this way,
I only
yeah.
recognize it from that way. So,
This way.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's
That way.
just,
it's just 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, okay. I know why you do it that way, so it'll
just
fit on
formatting,
the.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I know people are gonna be like, where am I? Okay. I have no more comments. Everybody else fine with all that stuff? Thank you for taking all the comments in the last two and incorporating them. Okay, ongoing engagement efforts. Evan, why don't you report on that?
Just, I've seen many of you at these events, but myself, some planning board members, Alex, planning intern, have been at various community events. We're at Race Amity Day, the day after the Natural Systems Workshop. We were recently at the community picnic and fireworks. We were invited to the Save Mashpee Wakeby Pond Alliance annual meeting and spent about an hour and a half there. We were at the Friday powwow day, and we have an upcoming event to be further defined at Southport. They've been really productive. I think it's actually been a nice opportunity to have more of an organic,
Yeah.
informal discussion about people's priorities, and you kind of get a broad spectrum of responses from folks. At each of these events, we've been kind of regurgitating our visioning work from our first workshop, asking people about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, concerns of the town. We've also been providing kind of like a headline exercise, asking people to think about what they would hope to see as the headline of the Mashpee enterprise in 10 years. Some people have put like, Mashpee is a leader in community resilience, or Mashpee opens new community center, which has been fun. And one thing I forgot to note on here was that we also went to an ice cream social at the senior center, and that was
Yeah.
actually pretty
That's a
lovely.
good one.
People were really interested in speaking with us at that event. And we also have had a little exercise for kids, and we've just asked, children to draw their favorite place in Mashpee, and we've gotten a variety of fun responses there, from, beaches to John's Pond to the splash park to the mini golf course at Mashpee Commons, to someone even drew a picture of Town Hall, which I thought was really cute.
I remember one little kid said, I love it all.
Yeah, I love it all. So that's been a lot of fun. We're gonna plan on being present at the concert series in the park
All right.
on Tuesdays. Alex was also provided the calendar of events at Mashpee Commons, where they're doing like family movie nights.
Okay.
We'll try and get a table, I think, at Stop and Shop and maybe in front of CVS, or maybe the post office might be best, because everyone going in there probably has a Mashpee address. So we're gonna keep working on these kind of,
So Mashpee Stop and Shop just asked the manager. And
we went in, but he was on vacation, so
What?
we missed the manager.
And then the post office, you are supposed to check in with the postmaster.
So that's kind of what we're working on in between to kind of round out the vision. And it's been quite productive, and we've enjoyed doing it. And then this upcoming weekend, we'll be at the general body meeting of the Wampanoag Tribe for a stakeholder kind of engagement session.
What that?
So this Sunday, July 10th, we're going to be at the Community and Government Center starting at noon.
All right.
And Womp Wheels is gonna give us some food. I've arranged for that. Corn chowder, cornbread, and salad.
Nice.
And their general membership meeting starts at 2. So we're really pushing out to tribal citizens. We're gonna be at your center, come to your meeting a little early, and
They getting lunch too? Anyone who shows up?
that's,
12?
yeah, that's
Okay.
what
I
I'm,
should note, the chairman's administrative assistant called me today and
Okay.
and is putting us on the agenda for the meeting. And they want
as well.
and they want us to have a kind of Q&A discussion. I think we can model it similarly after what we've done at community events. but I didn't want to turn down the invitation. It seemed like a good opportunity to engage the body, because they also said tribal members are not showing up early. They're getting there right at 2. So we want to make sure
So
that.
that's fine,
That
yeah.
we capture them during their agenda as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good opportunity
Yeah.
to take advantage of.
And then I think we're just going to play it by ear, right? I think if we have a big group, we might, form a circle and talk, or if it's one-on-one, we can use our flip charts and stuff like that. I do find that some at these events, like, people talk really fast, they don't write anything down, and I have to sit there and write down what they're saying. So, like, I'm always trying to get people to write down their comments, but if you are at one of these events and people are talking, just grab one of the sheets and write it down for them. Some people just, that's how they want to communicate.
But I did ask Ashley today if I sent all the pictures of the student drawing, or the children's drawings, and of the flip chart stuff we've collected at these events, and they'll be put on the planmashpee.com webpage, so you can see what we've learned outside of our formal workshops.
That's wonderful. I have this list of community events, community meetings, so we took all the emails that we had gathered way back when we first started this and kind of grouped them into kind of focus groups. And so one of the focus groups was the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. We've got that under control. We have the business community. It's the chamber plus Mashpee businesses that are not part of the chamber. So I was hoping that Evan could work on that. I think you're involved in Southport?
Yeah, I haven't heard too much.
I spoke with
What's
Jim
going-
last week. I can give you some more detail.
Okay.
So that's, I was going to start, if it's okay with you, Evan, start working, figuring out how to talk to the parents of school-aged children.
Yeah, I've had brief conversations with the superintendent and assistant superintendent. So we're going to continue those discussions and ultimately try and roll out something in the first week or 2 of the school year.
Okay.
For a virtual event.
All right, so we'll hold that.
Because my daughter, I told her that they're gonna drop, because she's an art teacher.
Yeah.
And she kept on saying, they never said anything. They never got back to me.
Oh, okay.
You know, our youth engagement toolkit, which was really well defined at the beginning of our launch, which was rocky.
Yeah.
Making sure we got the process up and running and took away some of our focus on the youth engagement piece. So we can certainly bring that back up in the fall.
But that's a good way to get the parents involved.
Yes.
All right, so you're on vacation the second week of school,
Correct.
right? Okay. All right, and hopefully we'll have the survey out
Yeah.
by then, you know? All right, so do you want me to work, so you have on here virtual workshops. So why don't we talk about that? And then I'll go back to the list of
Well,
focus groups.
we've discussed holding, for those who either haven't been able to come to our events or are more comfortable participating in digital space, and we've all kind of learned how to manage that the past couple of years, holding a kind of condensed virtual workshop to address kind of visioning, but also the systems framework in a virtual format that we would, Weston and Sampson would help us facilitate. And then the additional virtual workshop would be the one for the parents of school-aged children.
Okay,
Weston and Sampson and I have discussed this, and they're prepared to assist us with those 2 workshops if the board is still interested in pursuing a virtual workshop.
What would the other virtual workshop be?
So it would be just the general one, like I've just described, but the other one would be the parents of school-aged children in the early
General
school
one,
year.
and how would you announce that? Would it be through constant contact, or?
We would want to, maybe we can rely on the enterprise. I could do a PSA like I have for other workshops. Email blasts from our planmashpee.com webpage, social media, word of mouth.
I think too, I'd like to focus on these committee and community and support groups. That whole big list of religious organization, public health groups, veterans groups, the Republican Town Committee, the Democratic Town Committee. Maybe, because I wanted that to be a virtual meeting. So maybe we can make sure they all know about that.
Should we not just invite them to the general virtual workshop that we just discussed and make sure that they're aware that it's
Yeah.
occurring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to a secondary one?
Yes, that's what I want to do. If you guys are going to do 2 digital workshops, or,
And we'll make sure those groups get targeted
Yes.
invitations.
yeah.
That certainly
And
makes sense
really
to me.
push it out to them, tell them to do their membership. Okay. Now, have you guys set any dates for these virtual workshops?
No.
Okay.
We'll certainly want enough time to advertise appropriately. Figure,
I think we need at least 3 weeks.
figure mid-August.
I think I'm okay having something in August and having something in September.
Okay.
Um,
So the general kind of condensed virtual workshop for the general population, mid-August, first couple weeks of September, parents of school-age children.
I think, I mean,
Makes
I
sense.
don't want it to go too much further, because then you're talking about pushing out the survey.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing this since April.
So what about New Seabury, Mike? You should be able to, have some type of meeting with that whole Summit community population and see how they feel. So they're not saying they're left out, you know?
Yes, so I think they're under homeowners associations,
All right.
maybe not.
But
I
he's
don't
the
see
head of
him
the
there.
Peninsula Council, I think.
But just generally, HOAs.
We have virtual for residential homeownership associations. So, all right. I don't know, so put them on the list.
Yeah, but
There's just so many.
There's so many, and I just, everyone is invited to participate in our
Right.
workshops, so.
that's all we can do, really.
Well, we can go to as many, we really want to go to as many people as is practicable and as we can manage in the department within our capacity. So I do want to be cognizant of how much we do and how much we can actually accommodate. So if we can consolidate as much of this as possible.
Right.
Okay.
It's better,
Yeah.
because
All right,
we can't
Yeah,
Okay.
individually.
We can't
so-
individualize
Yeah.
every single population group. The goal is to try and capture as many as we can using our time and resources as
So
efficiently as
what would you do,
possible.
like notify the presidents of the HOAs?
And as they have been for every workshop we've held so far, or at least everyone that's on our stakeholders list.
because I think we're gonna run out of time.
Yeah.
I can see that Lynn has a comment. So can you come up to the mic? Or you want us to bring you a mic?
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn Barbie, Surf Drive. So I have several comments, but one very specific is that when I talked to Major Quilty, who works with the veterans, he said most of them don't have computers.
Okay,
So, a virtual one will not work for that group of people.
Okay.
I've talked to a couple other people at the senior center in my classes, and it's like, I don't have a computer. I think we need to have another sort of general one, either at the library or at the senior center, that's for that general group of people, because we have a lot of people who don't, because I was saying something about, do you do Zoom? And she said, I don't. A couple of them said, I don't have a computer. And Major Quilty told me specifically it had to be in person if we wanted to get input from the veterans group, because most of them don't have computers.
so do you think if I talk to Greg Quilty to see what event they're having, could we go to their event?
Well, they do Friday afternoons at the senior center twice a month. So it's possible
he wasn't around in July, but probably in August, we could
Okay.
have it at their meeting, and maybe invite other people if we wanted to, but he meets with people who have issues, concerns, problems, the veterans, but he would let people know if we're going to do a special meeting, inviting people.
It's getting easier. We're getting a better response when we go to people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. So I just think, I think it's good to have some virtual meetings.
Yeah.
But I think a couple more in-person ones, because
Okay.
even the very informal ones that you've been doing just out in the community, we
Well, Lynn-
get good feedback.
What other groups, I mean, you wouldn't want to just go to the senior center for that one group, would you? I mean, in terms of.
No, I mean, the
constraints,
senior center.
What other groups would there be that might all meet at the senior center?
Well, there are other groups that meet there, and I could get you a list of all of those groups, but we could let any group that meets at the senior center be invited to it. We'd be in an afternoon, right?
do
I
a
mean,
Friday
not we
afternoon.
wouldn't do an evening, we'd do an afternoon because they're closed in the evening, but you could do like 2 to 4 or whatever. And there are classes in the morning, but I mean, I think that Ice Cream Social was a great idea. I mean, people were sort of there anyway doing stuff. But I mean, I would talk to Heidi to see when would be a good time that would be, bring in a lot of different people. Most of the classes are in the morning. It's really quiet around in the afternoon. But if we put out the word to people, come, because today, when I left class, there was a man sitting at the table right in the front, reading the yellow book.
Get out.
That's shocking.
If I had not been in a rush, I would have stopped to say, okay, hi, who are you? And what's your name? Yeah, because there's 2 of them sitting there. I mean, so, and it's easy to post information there to people who come there in and out. So, and there are other groups that meet there. I don't know who's meeting there at this moment, but historically there was the men's group and the Mahjong group and a whole bunch of different things. And I don't know how much of those have started up again. So just a couple of other very quick things. When you're talking about crosswalks, if you put in a rotary right out here, you got to put in a crosswalk somewhere. Because now, in 1998, there wasn't a Dunkin' Donuts there, there wasn't a knockabout there, there was still the lake, but we have a lot more going on across the way and parking across the way, and I keep seeing people sort of scurrying across the road to get, if they're
Yep.
parking on the one side to get like to Knockabout or so anyway, I think, because the thing about the Rotary is you can find a way to cross the street there. I mean, you have to go down the road a little bit, to do that. We need another crosswalk there. I agree with that. My only other comment was about in the survey, are we shy about using the word Wampanoag? Why do we just use Native American, and why are we talking about history and culture, but not being specific about that? Because I think that's, the Wampanoag are I mean, there are lots of different Native Americans, but these are ours, right?
Yep.
So, and I noticed that we're talking about indicate the following factors that impact your quality of life. One, it says Native American history. Now, that comes from the old survey. But hopefully we are a little more woke than that now, and we could talk about something besides the history, but currently. And then there's one other place where it mentions something about Native American, just Native American culture or something, it's somewhere in there. Because I think that how we say it is important, but I think we should use the word Wampanoag. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, I will have other comments on, I have a comment on one other thing, but we haven't gotten to there yet, so I'll come back. That's not the LCP. Thank you. And I'm willing to do some research at the senior center and see what else, we could do. But we know the library is also a good place to meet, so let's have at least one more in person. Thank you.
Lynn, where do they hold the most people, the library or the senior center?
Oh, senior center.
The big room at the senior center holds a lot,
That's nice.
where you had the ice cream social. That's like where they also serve food. But there are smaller rooms in the back. There's a very small room, but then there's a decent sized room. So, but the big room where they serve lunch, after lunch, it's generally available. Because they do the community lunch, and that's like at 11:30.
Why don't we shoot for that? Because those are the people who go to the senior center as opposed to, maybe they don't go to the
Oh.
library.
Well, I actually asked Heidi about that. She said currently they're only having like 1 or 2 people come for lunch. And I guess it used to be more, but it's again, maybe we're still in post-COVID or COVID. Because I asked her about that, and that's when she said, how about the ice cream social?
What do they serve for lunch then? Because maybe we could make a really nice lunch.
Oh, they
And
get
invite
Meals
them
on
to it.
Wheels. They
Yeah.
get Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
They're not bad.
I've
Yeah,
never.
Remember, they're low salt, low carb.
They have a menu, they have a menu posted, so you could check the menu.
Maybe we could make a lunch that's really worth attending, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Tapioca
that's what I
pudding.
thought about the food at the tribe.
Oh, maybe I'll speak with Heidi about that, because my department
So-
might be able to help.
But, I mean, generally in the afternoon, there's, like, those rooms are, they used to do mahjong while we were doing Tai Chi, and that was a little noisy sometimes, but their mahjong's not doing it now, so I think a lot of groups haven't really come back to have their activities there, but that doesn't mean that people won't come there, because the ice cream social they showed up for,
Yeah, maybe we'll have a pizza party or something like that.
yeah. So if you serve ice cream, people will come.
So just to go back to this list, I really do think we need to do something else with the business community.
Yeah, I agree. I
Okay.
have been in touch with the chamber again. I'll follow back up with you once we get a little bit more detail.
All right. And that might be something after Labor Day. If we still have room for input after Labor Day, just like with the schools system. Just because they do get a little bit of a break after Labor Day. Sound good?
Good.
And I'm going to look at the book that, the visitor guide that came out.
It's right here.
Because, good. So that I think lists all their members. So I was going to try to figure out the businesses in town that aren't listed there
All right.
to fill that gap. All right, good, so I have some time. Anything else on this? It's an incredible amount of work. Ashley, Alex, and Evan, we really appreciate all your hard work on this. This is, you're not gliding through this. You're right you're doing such a great job
Thank you.
getting, doing the outreach and making all the contacts.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, it's going to be great. That's why, Ashley, I want to see the matrix of all the comments, because I'm a geek. I want to see what everybody said.
I forgot one thing. If I may.
Yes.
Lynn Barbie, under sustainability, the beach parking lot, the beach dunes. When I first moved here, we didn't have those big dunes and stairs, but then they had to create the stairs to do the dunes to protect the beach. So I think that should be mentioned in terms of our sustainability issues, being able to keep that parking lot for the beach.
So for under existing conditions, we have a damaged parking lot at South Cape Beach. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Ashley, did you catch that? That's under an existing
Yeah,
condition.
because they have to redo those dunes
You're saying,
after
yeah.
every
Right
storm.
away. I don't know if you've noticed, if they get damaged, they go right out there and
Yeah.
fix it right away.
And I'm sure that that costs some money, but
Yeah.
if we don't do that, then we don't have a parking lot.
It looks
Thank you.
like the pyramids right now out there.
Yes.
Great pyramids of Egypt.
Right.
My grandchildren were there, and they said, what are all those mountains
Yeah.
over there? From the beach, they look really tall.
Yeah.
But they've also, some of the beaches eroded too. The beach is narrower.
Yeah,
Because
it
of the
is.
dunes, but if we didn't have the dunes,
The parking lot would be
it
gone.
would be, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing people being very upset, like, I used to drive down there and look at the water
I
from my
know.
car. It's like, yeah, well, you wouldn't have a place to park your car. So
Right.
now you have to get out of your car and walk up the stairs, so.
And down the
But that's,
stairs.
but that's, I mean, that's a real visual image of the climate change that we're dealing with. So,
Yes.
anyway, that was the other comment. Thank you.
And me and Tom and a bunch of people put the first dune there, 20 feet. We made
Really?
20 feet. And we said, let's build the rest of it. Oh, no, they come up with a pipe, they put a pipe one
Yep.
year.
Yep.
And stuff, and I'm glad they did the dune, we could have done it. We would have
Yep.
saved more parking lot if we kept on doing it. And when I first moved there, you could drive where the dumpster is at the end of the beach. There was road. You could drive all the way to the golf course. On the other side of the dunes, it was all road.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And stuff.
All right, is there any other public comment on the LCP?
Nope.
Yep, Marge, did you want to?
It's a, Marge Hecht, Hoopole Road. This is just a question, really. I wondered what the schedule is for this whole process, and at what point will the public be able to read a draft of your amended report and comment on it? Because, well, I'm an editor, but that's, so I have a lot of small comments. I don't think it's appropriate to waste time in a general meeting, but will there be a point when the report draft will be available so that the public can comment on it?
Yes, there certainly would be public comment period on the draft. It would be the logical step after we complete the community engagement work and build out the draft elements of the plan. We had hoped to have that by the fall, but given that we're kind of continuing some community engagement into the early fall, it would obviously be sometime thereafter, with a deadline for that being nebulous and not necessarily set in stone at this juncture, but certainly after September.
Right, so we have at least two public engagement events in early September, right?
But
Hopefully, we have the survey out by then. We don't want to launch the survey in August.
No.
I hope you agree with me,
I
because
agree.
everybody's on vacation. And then everybody gets the kids ready for school. So we have to wait for school to start and settle down a little bit to do a really good launch of the survey.
Yeah,
Then you have to have your survey out for
30 days, 25 days.
30 days, right?
at least, I would think.
Then poor Ashley has to figure out all the comments on the survey. And then you get to, then that, with everything else that has been garnered, all these other comments, that all has to get, I know that Evan and Ashley are gonna be working on this as we go along, but, so you're really talking about something, October, November. And then we look at it, and then it goes out for public comment, and that public comment has to be 30 days. And so there is a deadline for warrant articles, I think in February,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So we'd be doing really good if we had this for
Spring
a
23.
warrant vote for May. It might not,
Well-
still, we might not get there.
Right. I mean, my comment is that we need to take as much time as it takes to get it right, because it is a document that's going to last presumably 10 years at least. The other one lasted longer. So you have to take the time that's required to make it right and to have people have input and
You know, the
Continue this
deadline to have it
process.
finalized for the warrant is either
right.
February or July. And February, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like,
Yeah, I just don't see the point of rushing it at this point,
We agree.
because it takes a long time, as you all know.
I agree with you.
Okay,
and there's lots of chapters.
thank you.
All right. Onward, affordable and workforce housing. Evan has an announcement about ADUs.
So we've received, again, recently, number of inquiries from residents relative to the construction of ADUs. There seems to be a renewed interest these days in constructing these units. And we wanted to answer questions for residents. We felt it might be worthwhile to provide a workshop alongside the building commissioner, perhaps with partnerships with HAC, who are running their ADU program, to map out the process for people and make sure that they're aware of all the considerations that they need to be aware of as they begin to think about what a potential design would look like for an ADU. Because there is a fair amount to consider. Obviously, you need to start with your septic capacity. You need to consider the zoning requirements in terms of, gross floor area of your principal dwelling and architectural considerations, and then the actual permitting pathways. So we are proposing to hold an ADU-specific workshop and invite members of the public, where I and the building commissioner would lay out the protocol, essentially, for things you need to be thinking about and the process for which you could begin designing and getting your ADU permitted, whether that's attached or detached to your principal dwelling.
That was a good idea.
And we think that Housing Assistance Corporation would come, and sometime in the fall, hopefully when our survey is available, so we'll get all those people to take the survey too. But, all right. And then Clean Water Initiative. So, remember Paul Colombo came and we talked about nitrogen sensitive area and the DEP's new regulations for Title V. So, the state is gonna zoom in to the, as far as I know, the select board meeting on July 11th. It's gonna be a really long meeting. They have a heavy agenda, but it's all important. And so DEP is gonna come and do a presentation to the Board of Selectmen, take comments from the Board of Selectmen about this. If I understand correctly, Mashpee would be in a position to get a watershed permit,
No. Very good.
right? Which would give us 20 years to implement our nitrogen control plan. Otherwise, you have 5 years, and you have to put every system on, every individual system on an IA system.
Yeah.
Sort of a Hobson's choice, because now we know that we have an issue with IAs when you're talking about 30% of this town is seasonal, and you have to feed the system. And David Morris said he's not turning off the water, so we're not going to have
All
water
right,
turn
so
on.
if you have an IA system, you have this special septic system that takes out nitrogen, and you have a seasonal home, it can't function because
It's
there's
not
no
working,
flow
yeah.
year-round?
Yeah,
Oh,
It needs to be consuming like carbon, organic matter.
yeah.
And I'd like to know how much nitrogen these systems take out. I heard they don't.
they're
take
getting
out-
better.
They don't take out that much more than a Title V system. I
They
heard.
do. I think they
The
do.
initial iterations were not very productive, but newer technologies are proving to be much more productive and effective at removing
I still want to see the number
nitrogen.
though.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you know what, I'll see if the chairman of the Board of Health is speaking on July 11th. He might be speaking. I'll ask him for that information.
Sure.
I'll get in touch with him. Yeah, because they are making progress. But then they do, they do it at their research center, and then they put it out in the field. Okay. All right.
Hey, Mary, can we let Ashley know that we're done with the
Oh.
LCP and she can depart if she's not needed any longer?
Sure. Bye,
I didn't want
Ashley.
to interrupt, but I was going to ask if you needed me any longer.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
And I think if we get our game on with the survey stuff, Ashley will come down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we really feel for our next meeting, we're ready to start to make progress on the survey, she'll come down.
Right.
She was gonna come down today, but I didn't think we were ready. So, all right, so chairman's report. So Carol Sherman, who's the chair of the EDIC, which is our Economic,
Development Industrial Corporation.
thank you. That's a town committee. She's the chair. She's invited us to a meeting on July 26th. I think it's early evening,
Generally 6 or
What day
6:30.
is that?
the 26th.
Is it a Monday?
I think that's a Tuesday.
And
What time?
I think it's generally 6:30, Dennis, but we'll confirm for you.
yeah. And to talk about redevelopment opportunities in Mashpee. So there are some older, underused commercial properties in town. It'd be nice to kind of garner from gauge the interest of their owners. Are you interested in redeveloping? Did you think that, is there something that's a barrier to you? Some people, they're zoned commercial and because of the Amazon effect aren't really doing that great. So is there any interest in, we need housing. Is there any interest in converting it to housing and what would you need to do that? So we did that with the old and tired motels in Yarmouth. We passed a motel bylaw. Not every property, we had dreams that, Route 28 would be redeveloped overnight. No, that hasn't happened, but we have got some.
That's on that.
We got 2 affordable housing developments, we've got a Hampton Inn. I mean, there are things and some of our mom and pop motels invested money into the appearance of their motels.
Yeah.
So, it has stimulated that economy a little bit.
And if the incentive exists, over time, you could see those continue to be taken advantage of.
Yep. And it'd be, we should bring the sewering map with us too.
Sure.
Because that's gonna make a difference. Town planner report.
I just wanted to update the board that we did have an initial meeting with residents of the Papaneset neighborhoods, along with the health agent and the conservation agent, myself and the building commissioner. We discussed a lot of the issues that we've outlined already before, but Glenn McCarthy gave us a relatively robust presentation of the issues as seen by the neighborhood. Many of them zoning related, others not zoning related, some conservation related, some public safety related. But ultimately, I think they've mapped out their concerns relatively concisely. And I know that the Conservation Commission has invited Glenn to give the same presentation to the commission. I wondered if the board might be interested in having Glenn provide that presentation to you so we could discuss what we think are relatively manageable short-term zoning solutions. I think, some of the other things that we would want to discuss are really, culture-related issues, the Board of Appeals and how applications are being considered. But we felt it was beneficial and I thought that, at this juncture, if Glenn were willing, he might want to address you.
I would be for that.
Yeah.
I would, definitely.
And then thereafter, hopefully, we would have some actions that the board can contemplate moving forward.
Right. Right, because if we want to change the bylaw, we have to be done with it by that date, and I think it's February.
To get on the May.
So, it seems like it's really far away, but actually.
Comes up so
it's not.
fast. Yeah, it comes up so fast.
That's great.
All right, so I'll follow up with you on that. I did just want to provide the final draft of the application to the CPC for the potential acquisition for 751 Main Street, along with some letters of support we've received from some of our partners. We, the conservation agent, and I are trying to get some more from our refuge partners as well prior to submission, but that's generally game ready, and I plan on submitting by the warrant article deadline, Mary. I don't know if if the CPC deadline is consistent with the warrant article deadline, but that was kind of the assumption I was operating under.
The sooner you put it in, the sooner that CPC will have a meeting.
Okay, understood.
Good.
Have you submitted it yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So I'd submit it and use your connections to see if there's a placeholder.
Understood.
Like get a placeholder for the warrant.
Okay. And then lastly, I'm pleased to report, you may have seen along Main Street a small sign listing for sale 17 acres along Mashpee Wakeby. The property owners, I've been talking to the property owners informally for maybe a year and a half or so. And they've contacted me last week, firmly committed to selling this piece of property to the town for conservation. So we haven't yet to have a preliminary meeting with them alongside the conservation agent, but they seem to be motivated and willing property owners interested in protecting this land area. So I'll continue to report on this, but will be our goal to submit again a joint application with the Conservation Commission for potential acquisition, following a third-party appraisal.
So, I know, because I sit on the CPC, we don't have enough money in the bank to cover these. So, it might behoove you to start that whole conversation about bonding. What is bonding? What does it need? What kind of vote do we need? We're gonna have to borrow money. For those two purchases so close together, there's just no way we're gonna be able to do it. Now, there's the park grant, right? There's state money that can reimburse you 50% if you do it right, 50% of the purchase of the property, if you do it right. But it's like you have to have the capacity to buy it solo before, because the town reimburses you.
All right.
But other towns do it.
Yeah.
And other towns bond out for that purchase, and then the state reimburses them. So it's, we used to do it with the land bank.
Yeah.
And I think I told you,
You
the Cape Cod Land Bank ended in 2020. So the finance department got us in shape so that we caught up. We paid off all our bills, our land bank bills.
Oh, good.
And so that if we stopped the CPC in 2020, we wouldn't have debt. So the CPC, it has no debt. So, and they worked hard to get rid of the debt. So I'm hoping they'll be supportive
For the bond.
of the bonding, because, I mean, how often do you have the opportunity to buy these large tracts of land so close?
How many acres
To
is
the
751 Main?
Only 8,
Eight.
but it's
Eight.
contiguous with Pickerel Cove.
Yeah.
It's continuous to
Which
Pickerel Cove, which is an impacted water body.
Yeah.
And then the 17 acres, Pickerel Cove is part of Mashpee Wakeby Lake, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
the 17 acres, if those were developed, that would add to the degradation of the Mashpee Wakeby Pond Lake also. So it's a huge opportunity.
So I'll keep you apprised, but I just wanted to make you aware that we received that. Good news.
That is good news. All right, I don't have the second page of the agenda. What's next?
Board and committee reports.
Oh, so the Cape Cod Commission is having their One Cape. It's a regional conference. It's August 1st and 2nd. So if you're interested, sign up. Evan says the department has some money for things
Yeah,
like that.
I've seen that.
We have a budget for you to attend, so if you could select the option to be invoiced and provide it to my department, and I will pay you that bill. I've received yours, Rob. Thank you.
So, okay, oh, I found an agenda. Who's next? Oh, Community Preservation Committee, I think there's no scheduled meeting, but if we get applications, the sooner the applications are put in, the sooner the chair can schedule something. Design review.
Yes, and I really enjoy the design review. Thank you for suggesting it, because it's really a good
Yeah.
help for this board.
It does.
It really is. It was just one issue. A lady is opening up Inner Glow Yoga, which will be operating on North Market Street, but it'll be the backside where Cape Way Cleaners used to be. And it was really about signage and whether, under the zoning bylaw, whether she had too much signage. And it looks like she's got it, and it's approved pending final approval by the town, fire, police, and building department. And then there is one issue that the building commissioner is going to look at in addition to these other approvals. And that is, it has this film on the window that already exists. And that might be an issue, a safety issue, now that we have issues with, violent behavior and whatnot. So she may have to cut it back, or she may have to do something else. They're gonna work it out. And, Mr. Marks is very accommodating, Mr. Morris, rather.
Yeah.
And so they'll work it out, but everything's copacetic here.
That's good.
All right, plan review.
No meeting.
Environmental Oversight Committee, that's John's, so no report. Historic District Commission.
We have a meeting scheduled for July 19th at 9:30.
Except
Woohoo!
I've lost quorum, Dennis, so we'll probably have to reschedule.
Oh.
So I'm waiting reply from one more member, but after confirming quorum and then advertising a public hearing, someone notified me that they are actually no longer available. So we'll look to the next week, but I'm hoping that I get a response from one final commissioner. But we do have a meeting upcoming.
Okay.
And the Military Civilian Advisory Council met on June 30th. I did not attend. I don't know what happened. But we can take that off the agenda because it's
I took it off the
Jack
last
Fables.
one, I forgot, but Jack did attend. I could ask him to provide a report. to the
Yeah.
board.
Write a report.
He could report to you maybe at
Oh.
public comment relative to the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting for his report for like 5 years. No, I think 3. All right, because they never meet. All right, any other public comment? And this correspondence,
Wait,
and,
Lynn has the comment.
oh, Lynn is coming up.
Marge was ahead of me, but
I already spoke.
Thank you, Marge.
Lynn Barbie, Surf Drive. Can somebody please update me on what's going on Algonquin Road with the clear cut and the fines and the everything? And are we going to have another fight about solar overlays at that same property?
We're still awaiting reply from Cape Cod Commission. I spoke with them the Friday before the last select board meeting to inquire as to the status of my request for an informal jurisdictional interpretation of the Cape Cod Commission Act. And they just said that they've put my question to their council, and I'm awaiting a reply from, they're
Okay.
awaiting an opinion from Cape Cod Commission Council, and then they'll be notifying the town. So
Okay.
the ball is still in the commission's court at this juncture.
So the fines are still.
Mounting.
Mounting,
Yes, as I understand.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So
That's horrible. They cut everything
do,
down.
do we think they're going to try it again for the solar
Oh, yeah.
on that piece of land?
That I don't know. I'd be speculating. I don't
Oh,
know.
come on. You're good pals with him.
I-
No.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, well, because
I'd also check in with the,
it's now on my tour of Mashpee. So, the Wampanoag Museum and yeah, right. Now the clear cut by those
Yeah.
people.
and I would check with the town manager's office too.
Okay,
I think less and less of this falls under the jurisdiction of the planning board.
right.
Right, we put it on the agenda just because I didn't know. I think less and less I'm not sure.
Okay.
But the town manager's office might have some updates for you.
Okay.
Where was the sand pit? Was that
It's on
where
the
they-
western portion of the parcel closest to the Childs River.
So that's way in the back.
It's on the, it's on the
Side.
west, it's on the
Yeah.
west side of the piece of
Yeah.
land.
So they cut all the trees out in the front of it and everything.
All the single-family dwelling lots. that-
Well,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you saw, but
I walked through the whole thing.
Drew wanted to go see it, and he was told he did not have permission to go, even to see the Childs River area.
Because I stopped, walked through, and they cut down big trees. And they're still bleeding, the sap's still coming out of them.
That's why we need a tree bylaw.
Yeah.
At least, thank you.
They were quick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, went by one day, the next day, everything was gone.
gone, yeah.
And then the day after, all the brush, everything was gone. I mean, all the trees were down one day, the next day,
They were, yeah.
they were very thorough.
So, we're ready.
I make
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we're gonna get a day off from the planning board this summer.